Hi everyone, Jenny here with ABA Exam Academy. I'm a BC and today we're going to cover task list J, and it's going to be on stimulus generalization and response generalization. We have covered this in the past, but it's one of those topics that we continue to struggle a little bit. So I put things that we had covered in the past, and I added a couple of new mock questions, and I just wanted to do it in a different pace. I hope you get something out of it, and please remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel and to like the video if you enjoy it or learn anything. Our disclaimer is that in ABA Exam Academy, we're here to help you ace the BCBA, BCA, ABA exam. Basically, that's our goal, is to help you pass the test, and to do that, we host these free study sessions. They're live, and here today we have a couple of people. And the minutes are meant for us to have an open discussion about the topic to help us learn and pass the test for the BCBA, BCABA. And because of this, sometimes we say things out of the blue, and we say things that it could be a little bit not necessarily what the book says, although we do try to stick with the book, but double check everything we say with your resources. So basically, our ethical considerations is refrain from sharing any BCBA, BCABA test questions or any paid resources or any identifiable client information or anything like that. We are going to share open resources. Just please to do share with us the person who said it or did it. Okay, guys, thank you so much for being here again, and let's start it. So the reference today is Cooper Mayer and a little bit of past the big ABA. So stimulus generalization. Guys, do you want to read it for me? Rita, would you like to read stimulus generalization, the definition?
Sure, I'll read it. Stimulus generalization. In stimulus generalization, the individual responds in the presence of a new stimulus in the same way as to a previously taught stimulus, having some of the same characteristics.
Thank you, Rita. So, what does that mean in our own words? This is straight from Mayer, straight from the book.
Well, in reading this, what I would think of is responding in the same way as previously taught. So let's say in a new stimulus. So let's say if you were taught in a stimulus of, let's say, a black cat, and you're taught that a black cat is a cat. Now, if you see a white cat, you would also say that that is a cat, even though it's a new cat now because it's not black anymore. That's kind of how I'm thinking about it. Maybe I'm not right.
No, I think you're perfect. So the response would be the response would stay the same, which would be what? Saying what? Saying the word cat.
The word cat.
And what is the changes?
The color.
The color, which in this case is the stimulus.
The stimulus, right.
From the original one, which was taught, which is the black one, to the new one, which is the white. Do we all agree?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Rita. I appreciate that. So for response generalization, Minerva, do you mind reading it?
Yep. Response generalization, aka is response induction. Response generalization may be defined as a spread of an intervention effect from a target behavior to a similar non-target behavior. The response of interest does not remain intact as with the stimulus generalization, but it begins to shift its form or topography.
Thank you, Minerva. So in our own words, it's basically, in this case, does the response stay the same in response generalization, or does response change?
Response changes.
The response changes. So what stays the same?
The stimulus.
The stimulus.
The behavior, I guess.
the behavior changes, the behavior or the response changes. The one that stays the same is the stimulus. So let's use Rita's example, which was good. How can we change it around to, Rita set an example for a stimulus generalization. So how can we change it around to make it a response generalization? Let's write it down.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's write it down to double check. Okay, so Rita said, black cat, we call it cat. And then she said, she also saw a white cat, and she also called that what? Cat.
Cat.
So here we clearly see the response didn't change, but the stimulus did change. That's what makes it a stimulus generalization.
Mm-hmm.
You see it? Okay, so now we're gonna duplicate this over here and tell me how can we change this example to make it a response generalization.
So it would just be cat.
Mm-hmm.
Cat will be the stimulus, and the response will be black cat, white cat. Is it?
Well,
Or
let's keep it the same. Let's keep it the same. So it will be black cat, just for us to keep it consistent. So you see a black cat, right? Let's see, I see a black cat, right? I see the black cat, and then I call the black cat, what do I call that cat? What do I call that thing that I see? I don't want to say the name, but you said it. It's called what?
cat?
Kitty? Okay.
Oh,
Arturo said kitty.
Kitty. Oh, sorry, Arturo. Yeah, there you go, Arturo. That's what I wanted to get at. So, so you see the black cat, and then you call it cat, and then again you see the black cat again, and you call it
Precious. I don't know.
Kitty. Yeah, well, that's it. That's what I want to get at. And then you see.
Arturo said pussycat.
Okay, so so you call it kitty, you call it cat, you call it misu. We call it misu. Misu. So what changed here? Did the stimulus change here?
No, it's still the same black cat.
So what is the one that changed?
The response.
The response.
Which makes it response generalization. Okay, guys, I like this.
Nice. That was good.
Okay, so now we can briefly go through the rest. But I wanted to double check that response is an instance of a
behavior.
What do we mean by that? So let's say that the behavior is studying, right? So what is one instance? What's one instance of the behavior of studying? So can you give me one example, guys?
Study on Zoom, like right now.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Study reading.
The library.
Study by reading, studying with a Zoom, studying by what you guys were talking at the beginning, that you're doing mock tests. All of that, they're different behaviors that or responses that you engage in to do the behavior of study, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so last time we did this, I asked about stimulus, and the brief definition, the simplified definition, for the sake of the test, or for the sake of us knowing it in a practical terminology, it would be anything in the environment that can affect behavior change. So a couple of examples that I got was AC, turning AC on, a parent, the sun. So what other examples do you have for a stimulus?
The teacher being absent, a substitute.
So yeah, well, that's a good one. Okay, let's just put substitute. So substitute by itself, just like that, is a stimulus. So which other, guys? Any other one?
Hold on, try now. 2, 3, 1, 4, 1, 2, 6, 7, 4, 4, 3.
Okay, so
Arturo says anything really. A dog.
can you repeat that, Minerva?
He said like a dog. A dog.
A dog. A dog is a stimulus. So anything that in the environment that can affect behavior. Can my cell phone be a stimulus?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That was awesome. Okay, these are 2 examples that I got that I kept it this time around because I really liked it. It was a stray. Oh no, this is not the example. This is the actual definition of something that I want you to get used to seeing it, just in case you get, because in the test, it surprised me that I saw actual definitions. I thought it was more scenario, but it was scenario and also vocabulary. So I want you to get used to straight from the book vocabulary questions. Okay, so here it is. Blank is an energy change that affects an organism through its receptor cells. Is it behavior? Is it stimulus class? Is it stimulus or is it response?
Behavior.
What do you think, Minerva?
I was thinking a stimulus.
Energy change is a stimulus.
Yeah, stimulus.
So we're saying stimulus? Or
yeah.
Yes, it's
stimulus, and I
change.
think Martin is saying stimulus.
Yeah,
we can
stimulus
hear you, Martin.
Hi, Martin, you're quiet. Welcome.
He's driving.
Oh.
Yeah, no, focus in the driving. Oh, I can hear you a little bit, like you're very far away, but I can hear you now. Thank you for being here, guys. Okay, so yes, it is a stimulus. And that's the actual definition from Cooper. And that's why I wanted to...
Can you hear me now?
Much better.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what is a stimulus class? What's a stimulus class? Do you remember?
Is a stimulus class a group of stimulus?
It's a group of stimuli, I think.
Yeah, it's a group of stimulus that share
common characteristics, right?
Common characteristic, yes. Okay, so something extra that they wrote that I wanted to point out is apply behavior analysis most often study.
Too much noise.
Okay.
Yenny, I don't know if you can hear us, but we can't hear you. You're mute.
I muted myself instead of...
Okay.
That's hilarious. Okay, guys. So something else that Cooper said is that taking into consideration that a stimulus is a change that it's an energy change that affects an organism through its receptor cells, then there's the ones that are inside and the ones that are outside. But applied behavior analysts most often study the effects of stimulus change that occur outside the body, such as the ones that we talked about, the stimulus, like the cell phone, makeup, crunchy.
Is that the one that's called exteroceptives?
Receptors, you said? Cell receptors?
No, they're... One is like interoceptive, one is exteroceptive. Are these the ones, the different types, or no?
No, those are the type of nerves.
Yeah,
The proprioceptive, yeah, those are different ones, yeah.
yeah, yeah. But if you keep reading about it, they sort of they're related to each other in the sense that those are the things that we have inside that affects the behavior, and if you just got to read more into it. That I don't want to actually get into it today, but what I want to get into today is that it's the outside. We're talking what we consider the most is the ones that are outside the body, because the external stimulus condition events are more accessible to observation and manipulation. That's all. Okay, guys. So this is the examples that I was talking about from Mayer, and I kept it simple, not too many multiple choices, just two. So the example says, when her parents asked baby Bonnie the color of an apple, a strawberry, and her brother's wagon, she answers red. Having been lavished with praise by her parents for answering red, now when Bonnie sees a red fire engine for the first time, she also says red. The above sentence demonstrates what? Stimulus generalization or response generalization?
Arturo said A.
So Arturo says
Stimulus generalization.
What do you say, Rita?
Oh, I need to read it. I'm sorry. I just came back on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to
No,
put
I'm sorry.
Can you read it out loud, Rita?
Okay. When her parents asks baby Bonnie the color of an apple, a strawberry, and her brother's wagon, she answers red. Having been lavished with praise by her parents for answering red, now when Bonnie sees a red fire engine for the first time, she also says red. The above sentences demonstrate A, stimulus generalization, B, response generalization. I think it's A also, stimulus generalization, because
I
there's so
think
many.
it's stimulus generalization because the response is just red and there are different stimuli.
Yes.
Strawberry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And you agree, Minerva?
Yeah, I'm agree.
Okay. Okay. So you guys didn't have trouble with it. That's good. So here's what I always recommend you guys whenever you take my tutoring classes session is I always recommend you to, if you're struggling with it in the test, to do this little table right here. So instead of writing a stimulus whole sentence, you can you can just easily put S or R, and then here the stimulus would be, like you guys said, which one would be the stimulus?
The strawberry, the apple, the wagon, and the fire engine.
Fire engine.
Oh, it's too big. I'm just gonna put it like that. Strawberry, apple, and the fire truck. So my point is that you can visualize it, and there's just three. And what is the response?
Red.
Red. So this example was easy, but when it gets confusing, whenever I do this, I get unconfused because you just do the math. Which one is the one for? The stimulus. So what is it? Stimulus generalization or response generalization? Stimulus generalization, right?
Stimulus.
Yeah. Okay, let's do the next one. When you drive a different car, You adjust the way you shift from what you did in your previous car. The above sentence demonstrates
Stimulus generalization.
is it stimulus generalization or response generalization? Let's do the little table with me, guys. And this one,
It's response because the
reason why I wanted to do it is because I wanted to do something different. That's why I got the book. So a stimulus and response. Okay, Rita and Minerva and whoever else wants to participate. Tell me, what's the stimulus here?
different cars.
So let's call. But we wanna be able to visualize it. So it would be car 1, car
2.
I want you to see that there are more than one. And what's the response?
Driving
normal, and then you adjust it.
Oh, but it's still a car.
Right.
I see what you're saying. I see where you're getting confused.
Because I mean, you can say that whenever you have a truck, and then you can drive it when it's automatic. You drive it differently from a shift. The one who has like a shift.
Right, the shift.
Which is still a car, but different ways to drive it.
Shift. Oh, because it's shift. Yep.
But
actually,
but it could also be.
The answer is actual response generalization.
Right, because it's the same behavior of driving. However, you're shifting it differently. And it doesn't have to be a shift car. It could be a regular car. Some shift is on the steering, and some shift is, like where you rest your arm, So that's probably the way I would think about it. But the behavior is the same. The driving is the behavior.
Yeah, but it's talking about the response. The response. Driving is the behavior, but it has different responses. He's engaged in different.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I thought it was response, because the different responses to one behavior of driving.
But it is, yeah. But the answer is response generalization. But
right.
That's why I like to use examples from the books. I advise you, when you're reading the book, if you find an example, make a mock question out of it, because it's much more tricky. They don't say it so black and white like when we write our mock questions. It's a little bit more black and white. I see it's a little tricky here. Okay, any questions about it?
No.
Okay, so the next one is generalization occurs when a large spectrum of stimuli occasions certain responses. Is it true or is it false?
True. Generalization is large spectrum, while discrimination is narrow. So yeah, I would say true.
But for certain responses, or for...
Oh, it says certain responses? Oh, I didn't see that part.
But it is
large spectrum. Yeah, it is true.
Oh, okay. It got me with the certain responses.
Yeah.
That's why it gets us. So the trick here is large spectrum of stimuli. Okay, so this one I did it last minute because I had it differently, but let's just shoot for it. The therapist teaches the client that this blue car is a car. Therapist says, what is this? Client answers, car. Next week, the therapist points to this yellow car and says to the client, what is this? Client says, car. What is the therapist teaching the client? Response generalization, stimulus generalization, or behavior?
Stimulus generalization.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah. I agree with you. There you go. So that's the example. I got it from here. That so the response would always be the same, car, and you showed three different. In the case of the mock question, it was two, but in this case, is three, and they all get you to the child answering the same answer, which is car. So a different one would be for response generalization. You show this example, and then the person could say auto, could say car, could say automobile, could say something else.
They could say taxi.
Could say taxi, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Nice job, guys. Okay.
Nice job.
Thank you. Okay, so the next one is baby Albert learned to grab the milk bottle with one hand yesterday. Today he grabbed his mom's water bottle. Grabbing his mom's water bottle is a stimulus generalization, overgeneralization, response generalization, or behavior generalization.
One behavior.
Stimulus generalization. Because it's two stimulus, it's the milk bottle and then it's the water bottle.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. Yep.
Good job, Minerva.
Then you do.
Yeah, I got it. And I did that little table at the test.
In your head.
Oh my God, I'm so
No, I actually did it.
Oh, you did. You wrote it down.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah.
Good. That's awesome.
Good job, Minette. I'll make the table later on. Okay, so there you go. That's the tip and that's the answer. Okay, let's do this one. The BCBA is teaching her client that a pen and a pencil are both tools for writing. When the client grabs the pen in his hand, he writes with it. When he grabs the pencil, he rolls it on the table and doesn't use it for writing. The client is having trouble with generalization, discrimination, overgeneralization, or general discrimination.
Generalization?
I think when he grabs the pencil, he rolls it on the table and doesn't use it for. I think the client is having problems with.
I think it's discrimination. Mine was mute. I was talking to myself for the whole time. I'm crazy. I think that.
And you didn't get
so far.
You didn't get reinforcement from yourself.
No, so far I'm answering all these questions and I don't hear anything. I said I'm crazy or what? Or you guys cannot hear me?
It's autoclitic. You're talking to yourself.
It was autoclitic so far without any reinforcement. But I think this is discrimination.
Why? Because
yeah, I think it's generalization because the client is having issues with
generalizing. Yeah.
With generalizing
that you can use pen because you use pencil both for writing. So that's what the client is having issues with.
Generalization.
Yeah.
It's the way the question is worded. So when mom asked Daniel, how old are you? This one's tricky, guys, so pay attention. When mom asked Daniel, how old are you? Daniel responds, 13 years old. When Daniel gets to school, his teacher asks him, how old are you? Daniel responds, yeah. Which type of generalization is Daniel having trouble with? A stimulus generalization, overgeneralization, response generalization, or behavior generalization?
I think it's stimulus generalization.
It's not response.
Is it stimulus or response?
It's response.
I think it's response because
I don't know. But it's two different stimulus.
But it's one.
It's two different stimulus and two different responses.
No,
so I'm not.
But remember, you gotta focus on the response that it's the correct one. So what is the correct response that you're expecting him to say?
13 years old.
Yeah. Are you expecting him to say 13 years old and I am 13 years old today, but tomorrow I'll
Right.
be 14. So are you expecting him to change the response?
No, I'm not expecting him to change the response. I'm expecting him to be consistent with 13 years old if he's 13 years old.
So 13
Regardless,
years old is the set response. And what is it that you're changing?
the stimulus is changing.
The stimulus is changing. Do you see it now?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So it is stimulus, correct?
I believe you are.
Yeah, that's what I think is
Yeah.
stimulus.
Okay.
Because if he had said 13 without saying the 13 years old,
Yeah.
you know, then that would be response. 13 years old, 13,
Yeah,
almost 14, all of that would have been response.
that would have been response. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice job.
I finally parked. I can see your questions now, Yanni.
Oh my God. My son calls any woman he sees mom. This is an example of discrimination, generalization, response generalization, or overgeneralization.
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 That one's easy. You knew that one.
Overgeneralization.
So basically, overgeneralization, we all know that is an inappropriate generalization, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So the RBT shows her client a cow and he says cow. She shows him a cat and he says cow. The client is the client is overgeneralizing and the therapist needs to teach him to discriminate cow from cat, or is the client is generalizing and the therapist needs to teach him to discriminate cow from cat? The client is discriminating and the therapist needs to teach him to generalize cow from cat.
I think it's A.
It's A. Yes.
You are
We need to
correct,
Mm-hmm.
friend. That was good. Let me see. We only have two more. That's good. One more. Sometimes Mr. Gump praises with moderate enthusiasm. Sometimes with flat tone, and once in a while with quite hardly. The above sentence demonstrates A, stimulus generalization, B, response induction, C, overgeneralization, or D, generalization. What do you think?
response induction.
It's response induction or response generalization.
There's no response generalization, so
That's
induction.
the AKA.
Right. No, I know. I thought you meant on the list.
Nice job. Yeah, but that's what I wanted you to get. Guys, you're rocking this section. This one is really good for you. You guys are getting it. Congrats.
Thank you, Yanni.
Thank you, Yanni.
If anybody else needs any more help, feel free to schedule a tutoring session at abaexamacademy.com.
Arturo said thank you.
Bye. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, Yanni.
Bye. Take care.